we're going over is really a very simple one. And that is, I only exist in my thinking. And that everything that's playing outside of me is really Hashem turning up in my life in that moment. And He's inviting me to use my Bechira. Bechira is the only thing we actually own. Hakol b'dei Shemayim chutz miyirat Shemayim. Everything is in Hashem's hands except for Yirat Shemayim, which is understood to be Bechira. Bechira is free will. Free will is always my next thought. It's not always the thought I'm getting as a pop-up or what's happening to me in the moment. I might have a happy reaction or a fearful reaction, which would be completely natural to the way we're wired. If someone screams behind my back and I jump from fright, and because my mind doesn't know how to make sense. Am I in danger? Is it safe? Is it someone I know? They're playing a prank, or is it an anti-Semitic attack? So it might take me a second or two to get enough information to either relax or go into defense attack mode. But the point is that our Bechira mostly takes place really in our next thought and what we do with the next thought, how we continue that next thought. And that's why, for example, a Jew is not considered accountable for seeing something that they didn't plan to look at, but they are held accountable for not blinking or moving away in the next moment. But if something just appears that I'm not supposed to look at, so that's not something that I'm going to be held accountable, but I will for staring if it's something I shouldn't be staring at. So that's a Gemara in Kedushin, I think Mem Tes around about there. So I'm just going to share with you some other examples. We talked about hammers last week with Rabbi hammers. So in case any of you are sensitive about insects, what I'm about to share with you is 100% rubber. It's not a real. It's a rubber cockroach. It's completely fake. It's not real at all. I'll stand at a little bit more of a distance in case any of you are a bit. So this is fake. I did actually have someone in the audience who was in the front row who said, "Are you sure?" So I said, "Look, it actually wrote here, it etched in, manufactured by CNN." Yeah. So that was a paid advertisement by the Parliament Party. Okay, so this is 100% fake. So the problem is I'm a very good actor. I say that out of honesty, not out of humility. It's just I'm being honest. So I'm warning you up front that I'm going to do something that makes me suddenly fearful. So please don't know up front. You don't need to be afraid. So here I am. I'm giving a presentation, and I turn around. Oh, thank God it's fake. So now, why did I jump? Why did I jump with fear? Why was my gut reaction? What's the reason? I wasn't expecting it.
You're scared of cockroaches?
I could be scared of cockroaches.
Because what if it's not big? Like you're...
So what made me actually fearful? I thought it was real. Right. Once I saw, it's not going in, it's just plastic, then the thought that it's fake took over, and I'm okay, right? So next week I come and I give a presentation, and I say, it's that lady's, this is a prank, this is a real one! And I got freak out, because I thought someone was playing a prank on me, and this time I flick it off, and it's, why wasn't I afraid when I just thought it was someone playing a prank on me again? Why wasn't I afraid? I thought it was fake. So listen very carefully. Did it make any difference if it was real cockroach or a fake cockroach? Or did what actually matter is what I thought it was? So my reality, it was dictated not by what this actually was, but what I was thinking it was. So I don't mean to say the following to catch your attention, but your husband is never your husband. He's only who you think he is. Which means that when I change what I'm thinking about someone, we said the correlation between leiv, which really means mind most of the time, and leiv, if you want to call it an icon of my emotions, the correlation is so immediate that what I'm thinking, I immediately feel. I think it's even faster than the speed of light. I'm always feeling what I'm thinking, which means that when I change what I'm thinking, I feel differently about this child, or this husband, or this spouse, or this neighbor, or friend. etc. Co-worker, boss, client. We covered everybody? Chavrusa. Yes.
A lot of people have issues, like let's say, relationships or people are trying to get out of relationships, right? So they're thinking they know one thing,
Right.
yet their heart is holding something else. So,
Right.
so then if that's the case, it's not immediate in that sense.
So what's happening, I'm kind of oscillating.
Right.
I'm going between, it's a little bit like falling in love and falling out of love. How do I fall out of love? And the simple answer is the mechanics is that love is me paying attention to what I like about that person. And the more internal virtues I pay attention to, their character, loyalty, giving, forgiving, easygoing, listening, empathic, sensitive, loving, humor, kind. We can go through a whole long list. But the more I discover for myself that this person has this quality, this quality, this quality, and the depth of that quality, how real it is, how consistent it is, the more we love that person. So how do I fall out of love? The answer really is when I pay attention to what I don't like about the person and do that frequently, and then even consistently, even to the point where I start gathering evidence, it's very possible that, if you want to call it on the scale of the virtues, my mind is so fixated on what I don't like that I stop paying attention to all the reasons I fell in love in the first place. So it's really an oscillation where I'm going like this. Children are, let's say, craving for my love, and they spell it T-I-M-E. That's the four-letter word for love. That children, because there's no bigger compliment than someone saying to you, he wants to marry you. He's really saying he wants to spend the rest of his time in this world married to you, which his time is his life. There's no more valuable asset than time. Ask the most richest man in the graveyard, how much would he pay for one more day? And the answer is everything. I'm sorry to lose you over there. And it's okay, I'm trying to position myself for the camera and for everyone. I'm not sure if I'm addressing the question or comment fully.
Just like you said, like your heart, like you think something and your heart feels it right away.
Yes.
And then you read about it, or you see all these people in relationships or circumstances that obviously are not good for them. They should get out, and they even know they should.
Right.
And yet they don't. So
Right.
their mind is telling them one thing, but still their heart is holding on to something else. So there is a disconnect between the mind and the heart.
So it definitely would appear that way.
But you're saying they're just pulling.
I'm in a stage of confusion and struggle.
But they're just sifting and taking the other information.
And the more I get clarity, whether it's through a friend or a professional that helps give me the vocabulary to understand more and label what I'm going through and help me understand my limitations of what I can handle, what I can't handle. So that's where the struggle starts to get untangled, if you want to call it, and then I can see a little bit more clearly. But essentially, it's if I'm struggling, it's because I'm actually thinking one thing, and then I'm saying, yeah, but I've got kids. How can I leave this person, or well, how will it affect my children? How will it affect my parents? And then I've got so many different factors that I'm going back and forth. I say, okay, I'll stay because of. But then that might not be the best reason for me to stay long term if I don't get stronger inside.
So is it okay to say that like subconscious thoughts or denial will still always present itself behaviorally, like in your actions?
So I'm not sure if I'm answering this fully.
What I'm asking makes sense.
Yeah, no. The only thoughts we really have are the ones that we're aware of. The moment a subconscious thought comes to the surface, it's not subconscious. So while it's in the subconscious, there's not much I can really do with it. I could explore it to try and understand what's motivating my behaviors and what's behind my thinking. And in doing so, I do need a good measure, which I'm not sure if it was this class that I discussed it with. I just don't remember. Please forgive me. Where in Hebrew, there's two ways to say why. Did we touch on that? There's two ways to say why in Hebrew. One is lama, and the other one is madua. Now, because this is a perfect language, it's impossible that you'd have two separate words for the same translation. It must be that there's two Y's. So there's a Y of madua, which comes from the two-letter root da, no, information. Mem makes it actually from, meaning give me the information from the genesis of how this unfolded to where it is now, so I understand why I got to this, or why it happened and unfolded this way. So which time zone does madua send me in? It sends me into the past or the past. So I get paid to speak this way, it's okay. So it sends me into the past. So madua is an important question if what I dig up from the madua, from that past, bringing it to where I am now, helps me move forward and I'm stronger for it. I'm just giving you the headlines. We could play with an example. I'll give you a couple of examples maybe as well. But the lama is a totally different way. Ma. Now lama, when it's a prefix, which is what it is over here, ma is a two-letter root and means what? And lamed on its own means two. And it has another meaning. It could also mean four. What's the difference between 2 and 4? It's not a math question, by the way. 2 is direction and 4 is purpose. So lama is really asking lama, to what is this going to lead me? Or for what possible purpose or blessing or benefit? So I could go into madua, but as soon as I start getting there, I start realizing I thought it was just this person, and I realized that their parents were also involved, how they raised this person. It's impacted me in such a negative way, and I'm damaged. And before you know it, I'm coming out of a session in madua, and you know what? I'm so grateful for this clarity, because an hour ago, on a scale of 0 to 10 for my pain, I would say it was like a 7. But after realizing that the way this person who's really affected me terribly in my life, the parents, their parenting, I'm so grateful to realize that the pain I'm really experiencing now is like a 28 off the charts. And so if I come out, I'm slightly exaggerating, but if I come out from the madua and I'm more resentful or angry or bitter or Chas v'shalom, I want to take revenge. So all those are midot that the Torah actually tells me don't go there because it's self-destructive. Jealousy is self-destructive. Anger is self-destructive. Gaiva is self-destructive. It's just an innocent misunderstanding of reality. There's no such thing as gaiva because God gives everything. It's a pure blessing. He owes me nothing. And so Moshe Rabbeinu was able to do, can you imagine this? He was the most humble man who ever walked the earth. And when he wrote those verses on God's dictate, by the end of the pasuk, which said, he was Anav Mikol Adam Asher Al Panei Ha'adama. You do realize he had to be the same humble person by the end of writing that sentence that would be written and recorded forever? And he didn't have even a thought of Gaiva from it. It's extraordinary. So Gaiva is, why is he able to do that? Because he knew that whatever he has is a pure 100% gift. Oh, you worked very hard for it. So in his mind, he will tell you, if I meet someone older than me, that means they've got more mitzvahs in their lifetime than I have. If I meet someone younger than me, that means they've got less averas. If I meet someone smarter than me, that means they've got more contribution to make because of their smartness. And if I meet someone not as smart as me, so whatever they do is b'shoigeg, is less culpability than mine because I know better. So he was able to find some way in which every person he ever met was better than him. That's why it says, Anav Mikol Adam. It means from each person, he was able to learn another reason why that person's better than me. It was not, I'm better than you because I've got more PhDs or I've got more degrees or more life experience. No, everything's a pure gift. So all midat ra'ot, all negative midas are really taking place over here. And when I do the madua, it's only useful if it propels me forward, but doesn't get me stuck there. And I can know if I'm stuck there, because I just ask myself, am I feeling more anger, resentment, bitterness, nekama? I want to get out of here. So If it is a clarity that I need, great. But what happens if I come out of this a broken person, an angry person, thinking that Hashem, why did you do this to me? Instead of lama, it's a totally different why. What has this madua done to make me a stronger me moving forward? In what ways can I be more sensitive moving forward? You ask any therapist who deals with alcoholics or addicts, who's the better therapist? Not by small measure, leaps and bounds. Who's the better therapist? The one who has never been an addict but has all the training and lots of experience, or someone who was an addict and got up, fell, and finally was sober or whatever was the addiction, and now he's helping people with those same addictions. Who's by far the superior? The one, because it's min b'minoi. I've been there, done that. So, and that person connects so much more easily and deeper, and it's a vote of confidence. I pulled myself out of this side, and I'm helping people because I know which ropes to throw you to help you pull yourself out. I once met on a Zoom. It was during COVID actually. It was a fascinating Zoom. We were it was a number of different professionals and teachers, and we were speaking with a heroin addict. He was a recovered heroin addict who had been in 10 rehabs. Now, that's really unusual. I mean, 1 rehab, 2, 3, okay, I get it. But how many overdoses does a person have before he's got his death certificate? In fact, he actually said that his whole family said the only thing missing in his life was a death certificate. That was the only thing missing. He'd been through 10 rehabs until he realized, and this is on heroin. He's a heroin addict. He said, I realized I never had an addiction problem. And we're all going, excuse me, you just admitted 10 rehabs? And now you're telling us you realized one day you didn't have an addiction problem? That makes no sense. And then he explained himself. The simplicity of it was mind-blowing. He said, I realized I never had an addiction problem. I had a thinking problem. I thought that heroin would help me escape from the world I didn't want to be in. And then when he realized, wait a minute, I'm not addicted to a drug. It's my thinking that this is going to save me or help me escape. That's the problem. And when he started really thinking about his thinking, he suddenly realized, I can get out of this because it's not the drug that I'm addicted to. And now he goes around America helping, he goes to prisons, he goes to rehabs, helping people understand that Hashem gave us a mind. Our mind is so brilliant, it's extraordinarily brilliant. We can heal ourselves starting here, starting with our next thought. I'll give you another example. But this is it's a very mature audience, so please be mocha me. I'm saying this in the shul. I think I started telling you this, but I don't think I got to finish. There's a conference I attended a number of years ago from Rabbi, I think it's Michal Twersky. And he had there Dr. Keith Blevins. Dr. Keith Blevins, not Jewish, I think over 40 years, if I'm not mistaken, 30 to 40 years, he was the head of trauma in Miami Beach Hospital. He's a retired psychologist of repute. You can Google him. And at the end of his session, because he's talking about recovery from trauma, that he switched from the conventional route of therapy and medication to realizing a human being has been wired to self-heal. So I asked him at the end of the session, it was still on the camera, I asked him in front of the audience, what was the most extreme example where in his career he saw someone with this innate ability to self-heal and recognize that it's really over here. So he told us an extraordinary case where a young lady, 33 years old, had been brought in unconscious in the early hours of the morning. She had been abused by over 30 men in a gang. And she was unconscious. They had to stitch her over 300 stitches, he said. After she's wheeled into the recovery room, and she starts to come through and gets her conscience back, he introduced him, the protocols, he introduced himself, said, my name is Dr. Keith Blevins, I'm head of trauma, and I'm here with my team, that whenever you're ready to talk about what you've been through, we're here for you. And her response was the following: oh, that's okay. My body was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but my mind is completely unharmed. So his first reaction was, okay, she's in trauma and she's in denial, and there's going to be a process. So until she was let out of rehab, which was annexed to Miami Beach Hospital, she was under his case for 3 months, and the story didn't change. He saw that this was really real for her. She was not stuck in thinking, okay, I've been physically abused and emotionally and everything else, and now I'm damaged. There was none of that, because this is where I really operate. I was thinking of a very simple mashal. It's a very, very simple mashal. Why did the Kodesh Baruch Hu create the entire universe? We can say it was really for planet Earth. Well, why did he create planet Earth? Beautiful canyons, oceans, amazing deserts and greenland, forests. And the answer is no, that's not why he created. He created planet Earth for the animals, the shrotzim, the fish, the birds. No, he created it for man. And what did he create man for? His body? What's man created for? Oh, what's he going to do with his mind? What's he going to do with his bechira? What's he going to do with his free will? So here's a very simple question. You take a seed. We don't live in such an agricultural society, so it's a bit foreign to us, but you take a seed and you plant it in the ground. Usually we associate burial to gone, death. But this seed has divine intelligence. It's an astonishing seed. This seed, on its own, will actually absorb nutrition in the rainfall from the topsoil into the seed that will grow roots downwards and shoots upwards a tree-bearing fruit. Astonishing. It has its own trunk with branches and twigs. It's an astonishing seed. But not only that, this seed has this intelligence divine inside it, that not only will it be able to actually bear fruit, but the fruit itself is fruit-bearing, also has seeds in it. Are you impressed by this seed? Very impressed. An Isha is impregnated with a seed. That seed, that Zerah, in the moment of conception for the next 40 days, that Tipa, Zerah, that one drop of semen of seed, created your entire skeletal system. Are you impressed? Your entire nervous system, your entire skin, and your lymph system, and your blood streams, every system in your body with all its organs was created from this one seed over a 40-day period. You began as a microscopic brain and heart. That's all you are at the moment of conception. And in 40 days, this brain and heart, which is interesting, lave and lave, this brain and a heart actually created your entire physical body. Are you impressed so far? Are you expecting great things from whoever comes out of the womb? I mean, at this rate, it's like unbelievable. The divine intelligence in this is astonishing. And then, what happens for the next 2 years after birth? How much is the child talking? Hardly at all. So what happened to the brain? This brain is so brilliant, it creates the whole body. What happened? Well, what's the brain actually very busy doing? In 2 years of almost silence, except for crying for pain or hunger, until the first words start coming out the mouth of this child, the child is busy associating images and sounds and trying to make sense out of them. Oh, that's mummy. Oh, that's daddy. That's my brother. This is a chair. This is the floor. This is the camera, etc. And as they're building thousands of words of vocabulary until they learn to move the mouth in such a way, because it's quite complicated, between the lips and the tongue and the lip and the top of your mouth, the roof of your mouth, even to say lamed. You got to touch the roof of your mouth with the tip of your tongue, and then you got to close your to make a m sound, and you need to put the teeth behind your tongue behind your teeth, and you start realizing there's a lot going on just to pronounce anything. And this child starts talking, and I ask you, if your child is exposed to 2 languages at home, how many languages will this child begin speaking at the age of 2? 2 languages. If they're exposed to 3 languages, let's say English, French, and Hebrew, How many languages will this child start speaking fluently without going to Berlitz or Rosetta Stone speech therapy or programs? He'll be speaking 3 languages. Are you impressed by this brain? Absolutely. Now here's the question. Does it make sense that the entire creation, according to the first psukim in the Torah, 31 psukim of creation of the universe, does it make any sense that God would create the body with such intelligence that if Chas v'Shalom there's a cut, your body knows what to do without a band-aid? It will send blood to the surface of your skin, congeal, and if I'm not tempted to scratch off the crust, when the crust is ready to come off, it will reveal a new surface of skin. Are you impressed? This body's amazing. It can self-heal. Does it make sense that the purpose for creation, which is not the body, but actually the mind, God did not give us the ability to self-heal? Makes no sense. Or even to think that self-healing is like years and years and years of a very, very long process. Well, in God's dictionary, 1 second of one split moment thought of teshuvah changes my entire muzzle. One commitment to a mitzvah can change the muzzle of oneself and one's children. It's astonishing. Because we're not dealing with what we can see, we're dealing with what we can't see, which is much more than what we see. We don't see thoughts, so we don't have to think about it. It's invisible. It's just like air. In the same way that you and I, we don't see air, but it's there all the time, so I don't have to think about it. Until I'm under the water 1 second too long, but I don't have to think, I never think about air. Have you ever known anybody wake up first thing in the morning and saying, oh my gosh, I hear there's almost 8 billion people on planet Earth, there's going to be enough oxygen for all of us. I better begin investing now. Have you ever had anyone with anxiety attacks, there's not enough oxygen? No, because you don't think about what's there all the time. I'm not referring to air, I'm referring to something even closer. Oh, what's taking place over here? How far am I ever away from healing? So I gave you an example of that young lady who he tracked for 3 months, so it kept the same story. Now I'm going to tell you a true story. I have to be very careful. I can't give you details. I gave a class once on happiness, and someone came up to me afterwards and said it was a very nice class, but none of what you said applies to me. So I was essentially making the claim that there is no happiness outside of us. There's no such thing as happiness outside. There can be more reasons outside of us to make me even more happy, but according to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when you were under the chuppah and you said it 7 times just to get the message in over a 7-day period in Sheva Brachas, Asher bara sason v'simcha. Oh, so God created happiness. It's part of the Bria. In the words of King David, David HaMelech, Perek Dalet Pasuk Ches, Nasata Simcha V'libi. Nasata is Lashon Ava, happened already. Nasata, you've given, gifted. You've given Simcha in my mind. All the reasons to be happy are already in front of me. For me to see, for me to smell, for me to experience. So, at the end of this presentation, this gentleman comes up to me, not giving me any clues. It just told me none of this applied. So I was only parked two streets away. I usually do not do this, but the guy was seemed so broken and asking if I could untangle his confusion that it took 2 hours to get to my car parked 2 streets away. I don't regret it, but at the end of the 2 hours, he opened up and he said, look, this is what happened to my family. My daughter, 14-year-old, good, Beis Yaakov girl. And here I've got to be very careful, I can't give you details. For whatever reason, was helping a best friend's wife who's convalescing. Arrives at that house, and can I turn this off just for a few moments? Because is now in 2 double sessions a week of therapy. The wife is on tranquilizers because she's completely broken, and his eldest son, who's telling me, doesn't apply. So I asked him, honestly, I said, so are you still sending her back to your friend? He said, what? So what, is she still being traumatized by him? I said, no, of course not. I said, so what happened is not happening right now? I said, no. So, okay, so what happened is now a memory, is that right? So I was trying to help him understand that what we're traumatized about right now is something that happened, but you and I can't live yesterday. It's impossible. Science fiction makes it possible. It's never happened that you and I can go back in time. It doesn't work that way. After a neshama leaves the body, you can do that. The body's actually able to, the neshama gets a review of a panoramic view. That's what they call it in out-of-body experiences, which doctors have started giving a vocabulary to it. They get a panoramic view after they go through this long time or whatever of the out-of-body experience, and then they see the birth of themselves to their mother, and then their entire life unfold right up until they died, clinically at least, and then they go through a judgment period of am I going to stay dead or be sent back? So in that panoramic view, they experience every moment of their life within a second, a split second. So it is possible that we could eventually re-experience it, but while we're alive in this body, it's impossible to go back in time. We only live now. Yesterday happened, it's history. Tomorrow never, ever exists, because it's the future. And when we get there, it's now the present. So there's no such thing as past or future in a human experience. In my mind, I can worry about something in the future, and I can be traumatized by what I'm thinking about of the past, but it's a memory. So I don't have time more than the 2 hours to go into this in more detail, but I sent it to a friend of mine, his name's Svi Werther, who at that time was living in Brooklyn, now lives in the UK. And I said, you know what, he's good at this, you can go to him. He took his daughter to Svi Werther, and the guy gives me a call afterwards, and he says, my daughter came out of a 2-hour session, and Svi Werther asked her this number of questions about what she went through. Nothing. All he did was explain how the mind works. Past, future, present. How thought works. You can only have one thought at a thought. It's impossible to have two thoughts simultaneously. It's important to know that, so I know that the life of any thought is only as long as I'm thinking it. Oh, so how far am I ever away from taking my thought into a different direction, or allowing myself to be distracted, or forcing myself to be distracted? And he had a 2-hour session. The girl comes out and says, Tad, there's nothing wrong with me. Can you believe that? She says, there's nothing wrong. He had 2 more sessions with him, and that was it. The school wanted was very upset because she claimed she didn't need therapy anymore. But, and I'm not saying that's the norm for everybody, but there are people who I've personally met and seen where this is a concept that starts to either take seed, or for some people it's like a switch. Oh, that makes sense. And then all of a sudden, and I'm saying it literally, that awareness allows that the next time I fall into a deep emotional stress, the moment I remember who's generating the stress, who's thinking about it, where's it coming from, and I can easily say, well, it's so-and-so. This person who I hired, I worked for 2 years, I trusted so much, and has betrayed. I can't believe the level of scamming that he's done in these 2 years, behind my back, in front of me, and I didn't even realize it. And I'm like sober, I can't sleep at night, and I'm going over and over and over. But the moment I realize, wait 1 second, he's not in the room, he's fired. He's not here anymore. So who's generating this? Yeah, but it happened. Okay, but who's generating it now? I'm the one who's experiencing it, and I'm the one who's choosing it. It's only real because I think it's real, but not because it's actually there. So God put us in a world of illusions called Olam HaDimyan, Olam HaSheker. It's deliberately designed so it looks so real. It is so brilliantly real. It's so brilliantly real, like they say about the Mona Lisa, where there's 13 layers of paint on the Mona Lisa. This Da Vinci guy was brilliant. How you can stare at the picture whichever angle and you think she's looking at you, and you can interpret the facial expression in 2 different directions and some quite a few in between, and you're trying to figure out, how did he do that? So if you objectively ask the question, what makes one painting superior to another? So you might answer, objectively speaking, whichever of the 2 looks more real to the actual life thing that it was painted of. So here's a question. Why do we call HaKadosh Baruch Hu Tzur? We call him Tzur. Chada was the first one. She called him Tzuri. He's my rock. So the Gemara says, Al Tikre, so don't read it as rock, El Tzaya, as painter, designer. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu painted Olam Hazeh so brilliantly. It's three-dimensional, it's all color, and you can sensorially experience it. Oh, this is smooth wood. Oh, this is soft material, and we can touch this. I don't know if it's. Oh, yes, this is. I think that might be real. Marble, etc. And you get a sense that I'm living in a physical world. And Hashem says, no, it's actually a dimion. Scientists will tell you it's a dimion. They'll tell you that this is marble, but it's actually 99.999. You've got to go 12 spaces till you get to the zero. It's 99.99999% empty space. It's 0.0013 spaces later, 1% physical matter. The physical world is actually a dimion, literally, in the world of the physicists. They'll tell you that. Oh, so why am I so stuck in here? Because it's Olam Anasoin. Hashem wants me to be in this world to see how I'm going to respond to the stuff that comes up in my life. And this is where we're experiencing it all the time. Am I blaming and complaining and denying it's my fault and giving excuses why it's everyone else's fault and accusing is my way out of getting out of taking responsibility for changing the only person God put me in this world to change. But he's so patient with me that as many times as I accuse and blame and complain and deny and excuse, he says, no, I'm not going to give up on this Rietti. I'll give him another chance. I woke up this morning, huge surprise. That means he hasn't given up on me. I've got another chance. Oh, so I messed up quite a few things yesterday, but he's given me another chance. I've got another chance. Oh, so if you haven't given up hope in me, how much more so should I not give up hope in me? So when I'm insulted or someone calls me a nasty name or makes an accusation, even if it be true, so I've got to reference that against, well, God said I belong here today, so when you say I'm good for nothing, well, I think it's a machlekes between this person and Hashem, because otherwise, why am I here? So what's my self-estimation going to be based on? My self-esteem? Is it what I think or other people think? Or as we pointed out previously, I think we talked about that every human being is really a neshama, and that is perfect. And the neshama is tahara. So I can make mistakes, but the actual etzem neshama is perfect. We talked about this with 7th and 8th graders today, 6th and 7th and 8th graders. And we talked about the Camry. I think we talked about the Camry and the Rolls Royce. So we are a Rolls Royce. Just because everyone's called me a Camry and I'm all beat up doesn't change the facts. I'm still a Rolls Royce. I may not just realize it until I wake up and maybe decades later. So I'm trying to point fingers in the same direction every time, that this is where we're experiencing everything. And here's the question I'm going to leave you with. Why is that potentially empowering?
Destiny, like
Who's now in control? Who's behind the driver's seat? So you always get to choose lama. You always get to choose lama. Madua, hey, there's lots of ways to unpack Madua. I could ask my mother's opinion, my father's opinion. If my grandparents would be alive, I could ask their opinion, and I can get multiple opinions, and each one might add a new layer or dimension or angle that I wasn't aware of, and I get a stronger understanding of Madua. But it's only useful if it's making me stronger moving forward, because that's the only place I live, in the now, moving forward. Is this making sense? But if I get stuck there, then I've got to ask, is this helping me? Is this supporting me? Or is it bringing me down? Yeah.
Interesting is I feel like the whole climate that's going on right now, everybody's in Madua, everyone's and it's false, right? But everyone's gathering information, and the information's false, but everyone's like looking and searching and watching, and everyone thinks that they know, and nobody knows, but they're all there, and it's like an illusion, but they're all in the past. It's like exactly what you're saying, but all the information is wrong,
Right.
false,
Right.
but they're believing it.
Right. Yeah, I don't think there's ever been a time in history where Olam HaSheker has been more pronounced and more obvious, because when I grew up, there was something called Encyclopedia Britannica. Did I tell you about it?
No.
So I think you can still get one in British Museum. I think they might have one on display. But the first few 100 pages of each volume was lists of all the contributors and their credentials, and each one had multiple paragraphs for why that person with multiple PhDs was relied upon to be speaking about an area of expertise that he specialized in. So you felt, okay, so I can read this with some decent level of reliability. Today we have Wikipedia. Who contributes to Wikipedia? Anyone. Really? So it's exactly as you're saying. Well, so how do I filter? And the answer is God gave us a filter. But he also gave us a language, the Torah, to be able to decide what makes sense and what doesn't. What's sheker and what's not sheker. So God gave us a whole framework. He even gave us a framework for time and space. He gave us a timeline from Brias Olam till Tchias HaMesim. And he even gave us turning points so that we could actually see God's schedule. He gave us a schedule. It's amazing. He actually gave us a schedule. I saw this in Seder Olam, a sefer written by one of the Tanaim, Rabbi Yossi ben Chalafta. Later on I saw it articulated very well in English by Rabbi Victor Miller. I call them turning points, and I incorporate them in the timeline that your daughters are learning. But the point really is the following. If you look at God's Torah as an autobiography, so rather like someone who writes an autobiography, the first, let's say, 2 chapters is about his childhood. Next 3 chapters about the adolescence, teenage years, whatnot. Let's say 3 chapters on marriage, and then the next 27 chapters is all about his career. So reading through the book, you're going through the turning points of the biographer, the person who lived through this, and he's really essentially telling you that my childhood is only 2 chapters because it's just a stepping stone into the next 3 about my adolescence, but that was only a stepping stone into my marriage, but that I'm just giving you that as a context because the vast majority of what I focus on and deem as valuable in my life is my career, because you've got 27 chapters just on the career. So when you're reading a autobiography, you're really reading what's important to that person. That makes sense. So says Rabbi Victor Miller, where's the first turning point? A turning point means there's a switch of focus, like childhood to adolescence, adolescence to marriage, and now it's just if he mentions marriage through the next 27 chapters, it's only in the context of his career. Right, you follow? Because that's his world. Comes along Rabbi Victor Miller and says, where's the first turning point in the Torah? It's mind-blowing. First turning point in the Torah is before the end of the first pasuk. Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim. In the beginning, Hashem, the power of all powers, created the heavens. Thanks to Hubble telescope, we now know that the visible universe is about 1 trillion galaxies. Each galaxy contains about 1 to 300 billion stars. And each of those galaxies is many, many light years away with empty space in between from other galaxies. So it's so ridiculously vast, we don't have a human capacity to properly understand the magnitude of that size. And God says, hey, read my story. In the beginning, I created the Shemayim, the Haaretz, and all of a sudden, we've gone from all those galaxies right down to the Milky Way into our little solar system, and we're focused on the Haaretz. And for the next 30 psukim, God speaks about nothing else except planet Earth. He mentions sun, moon, and stars on the 4th day because it's in the context of planet Earth. But really, planet Earth is what matters the most. But all of a sudden, the 6th day of creation, God switches focus, and the whole entire universe and planet Earth, with its canyons and its oceans and its skies and all its animals and different species, forests, landforms, are completely ignored, and Adam enters the stage. Oh, so that's your focus. 1 second. 6 chapters in, God wipes out all mankind. And Labriot, bless you, Gesundheit, hope I'm all days. Only one person survives with his family, the first person in the Torah to be called Ish, Tzaddik. And now you see the pattern. The entire universe was created for planet Earth, was created for mankind, was created for, who's going to be my Tzaddik? Noach blew it. How did he blow it? He comes out of the ark, he sees total devastation, complete utter silence, nothing. And he falls to the ground in uncontrollable tears. And he says, Ribbon Shalom, why didn't you have mercy on your creation? You know what God's answer was? Astonishing. It's Parshas Noach and the Zohar on that pasuk. Roya Shoita, you foolish shepherd. Now you're asking me, why didn't I have Rachamim? Why didn't you ask me when I told you I'm going to destroy the world if they don't do tshuva? You did what I told you, that's why you're a tzaddik. You weren't a chassid, you didn't go beyond, you didn't beg me. So, the survivors of the Holocaust who are sole survivors of an entire dynasty, they suffer all their lives from a sense of guilt that they survived. It sounds crazy to us, but they knew their parents or children or friends or spouse or cousins were better people than them, and they died and I survived. It's very hard for them. Noach survives out of all mankind, and God calls him a Raya Shoita. So if you think he might have had a survival guilt, how do you think he felt now? Now, Noach had a pretty decent self-respect and Selam Elokim. Do you know what he answered? Rabbi, I thought about that, but it looked to me that the world was so corrupt that you wouldn't have accepted my prayers anyway. God answers, very revealing. Well, you're right, I wouldn't have, but you should have prayed anyway, because I would have saved your tefillahs for a future generation. So Noach, Adam blew it, ate from the tree. Noach didn't pray to save mankind. The next person to walk on the biography of the Torah who steals all God's focus, Abraham, Sarah, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Shifteka. All of a sudden, you see, God ignores. If the Plishtim or Mitzrim are mentioned, it's only in context of this family that's growing into eventually Bnei Yisrael. And then the fourth turning point is at Har Sinai, everything changes. Till now, no instructions from God. Only 7. From now, 613 through the Jewish people to be Or L'Goyim, to be a light unto nations, and 613 headlines. I'm not even going into the small print. We've been communicated to by God, and guess what he puts in those instructions? Throughout Chumash and even Nach, written Baruch HaKodesh, he gives us nevuos, promises of what will happen. So he gives us a context, and he tells us how the story is going to continue. If I keep his Torah, I stay in the land. If I don't, I'm going to get thrown out, but only for 70 years. Really? Don't make promises you can't keep. God says, I'm worried about that. I control time and space. I can figure out how to take everyone's mess up bechira and still keep my schedule. So we're thrown out of the land, Parshas Bechukosai, Perek Chavav, Babylonian exile. We come back 70 years. Yirmiyahu promised we're going to come back 70 years. It's in the same Perek Chavav in Bechukosai. Really? You're telling how do you get a nation out of its land and then return exactly 70 years later? That's bizarre. Well, that's the whole point. Because when you see something that ridiculous, irrational, illogical happening, you're forced to conclude whoever wrote this knows the future and controls it. Do you follow? You're going to get thrown out not once but twice. Parshas Kisabet, Perek Chavches. And then you're going to be leaving your land for a long time. And in exile, you'll be spread throughout the whole world. I don't know how many people here have got grandparents born in America? Anyone? Got grandparents in America? Okay, I've got 3. I'm actually British. My wife is born in Bombay. My father's Italian. My mother's born in Iraq, in Baghdad. Should have been born in Baghdad. She's born in Baghdad. My mother-in-law was born in Israel. Her parents are Iranian. My father-in-law was born in Afghanistan. My father's mother was born in Brisk. Now you know why I'm so confused. Yeah, have we been everywhere? Yeah, you've been spread throughout the whole world. But you know what's ridiculous about the prophecy? Prophecies in Judaism have to be ridiculous. That means they are totally irrational. If you don't let my people go, the waters turn to blood. Really? And it turns to blood. OMG. There's a power that controls water. The earth, if you don't let my people go, the earth's going to turn to lice. You're joking. That makes no sense. That's exactly the point. So when it happens, you're forced to admit there's a power controlling the earth. Barad, hail, stones of ice and fire. That was the whole point. Every nevuah is for us to see God is on schedule. He's still in control. He hasn't forgotten any of his promises. And who's at the center of it all? A slither of land, not even yet the size of New Jersey. The Arabs have over 500,000 square miles. We have 8,000 square miles, and they want us out. Does that make sense? Not really, but if you look at nevuah, it makes total sense because nevuah doesn't make sense. So that when we are surrounded by the nations, and they all hate us, anti-Semitism is part of a nevuah, Perek Chavches, Parshas Kisavoy, you'll be thrown throughout the whole world, Perek Dalad, also Perek, in Parshas Vayischanan. All these prophecies, the vast majority have actually happened so that we can see Kol HaDvarim Ha'ela Matza'ucha Be'achrus HaYamim. Perek Dalet, Pasuk Lamed Tes, I think it is, in Parshat Chanan. All these things will have happened to you by the end of days. Where's the end of days? Adam lived 930 years. Yitzhak's born around about 2048. That's not the end of days. How about 1,000 years later when building buys Rishon? No, that's not. That's only 3,000 years. 4,000 years, writing Mishnah. No, 6,000 is the total. Oh, how about 5,000, time of Rambam? How about 5,784? Oh, you're getting really close. And you will see all these things will have happened by the end of days. You'll be thrown out of the land not once, twice. You'll be hated by all the nations. You'll be spread throughout the whole world, and you'll start coming back to Eretz Yisrael. Half of the Jews in the world live today in Eretz Yisrael. Do you realize God's on schedule? The only 3 nevuahs that haven't come true is Kibbutz Galias. And how many Jews are waking up now? Non-religious Jews. I've got a friend, his name is Wayne Michaels. He's extremely famous in the film industry. He was one of the best, if not the best, stuntman in the world. He did most of the Bond movies. I don't know if anyone saw Skyfall, but the opening scene is someone doing a bungee jump. That was Wayne Michaels, who's a personal friend of mine from my school days. So he calls me. Sorry, he emailed me right after the war began and said, I want to join the IDF. He's 64 years old. He's extremely robust and strong, and I'm at least half my age when it comes to physical ability. Can you help me join the IDF? You know, so many people waking up. Hashem is almost like a last call. Who's on my side and my people's side in my land? Everyone else gets to choose, are you with me or against me? And we see what's happening. So, yeah, there's a lot of confusion, but when you look at the context of promises Hashem already gave us, we start to notice, okay, we don't know all the details, I don't know how much we might suffer, but we know the last 3 nevuahs, Kibbutz Galias, Mashiach building by Shlishi, and Tchias HaMesim. Oh, so we're all coming back? Oh, that could help us a lot. So your point is extremely well taken. I'm sorry I went over time, but that helps us get a context to how our Bechira works.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Apologies again for the late start.